Hello and welcome to my channel. Hi, I'm Wendy Haney. Today I'm going to show you how to make this cute little baby book out of fabric and embroidered applique designs. This would make a wonderful Christmas gift for any of those special kids in your life. And you'll still have time to do it because it's only early November right now. If you're like me, I usually have a tendency to forget about that and don't think about it till after Thanksgiving, and then, well, yeah, then it's harder. So here you go, get started now. This baby book has a cover, and then I've chosen to use a variety of applique designs of zoo animals. I used Applique Station's Zoo Pals, and then I took those designs and then I opted to put the letter of the first initial, if you will, first letter of the word for the animal. So C is for cheetah. Therefore, I needed to make sure my book was alphabetical. And I'm going to show you how to do that. There we go. So I'll walk you through the fabrics and the sizes and the batting you need. It's up to you to choose what you want to applique or embroider on machine applique or hand stitch or whatever you want to do on each of these pages. That is up to you to make it extra special. So let's get started. What do you need to make this beautiful fabric baby book? Well, you're doing machine embroidered applique. So you're going to need the traditional things you're going to need. Your hoop, your stabilizer, your thread, your scissors, everything that you need, your scraps of fabric. Oh, yeah, and you're going to need some designs. There are so many adorable baby designs out there that you can use, but I get a little anal and I hem and haw and I can't decide what I want to do. I had some really cute doggy ones I could have done, but I ran across these on Etsy. Applique Station on Etsy has these gorgeous beautiful baby designs. I picked some of them in her Zoo Pals collection, as you can see here. You're going to need 8 designs for this book that we're creating today. I am using a 4x4 design. I thought a 5x7 would be appropriate, but I'm also adding text on the book. And after trying it out, realized, no, a 4x4 works perfectly. So I picked out 8 of her designs, stitched it out, it looks great. Key thing to note with the Applique Station designs, she does her placement stitches all at once at the very beginning. That threw me a little bit, and she does have a note in her materials about that. If you're using software like Design Gallery or Embrilliance or whatever you're using, where you can, excuse me, tweak your pattern and copy elements of it, after you give it a try and understand what's going on, you may want to copy that placement and add it later in the design as well. Up to you. Any questions, reach out to the designer at Applique Station, and I'm sure she will help you out. Otherwise, go find Design by Juju. They have some cute little doggy ones. Tons of them with applique. Okay, I picked out mine, so you're going to need your designs. I am also adding text to my design. So in this case, I've got my lion, and so I want an L at the top and lion at the bottom. Totally up to you. I am using a font by Designs by Juju called Be Still and Know, and I chose a 3/4 inch size font. Once again, up to you. You choose what works for you. Now, we need fabric. It's a baby book. Wouldn't it be fun to have some nice bright fabrics? Well, you decide based on your designs, whatever you want to do. I'm going with the zoo, but I still decided to I dug in my scrap bins, not scrap bins, but my stash, and found these beautiful bright colors that I thought would work well. I've got my red, yellow, green, and orange. Of your fabric pages, you need 4 pieces of fabric, 18 by 12. A fat quarter works really well for this. You're going to lose some of that fat quarter, about 10 inches that you don't need. But hey, that's really all you need is a fat quarter. Whatever you're using, cut them down to an 18 by 12 inch piece of fabric for each of your inside pages. Now you also need a color. You could go with a standard other piece of color fabric that you'd like, but I was really looking for something that kind of tied in with the images, the applique that I was using. If I went with the doggy ones, I have tons of doggy fabric to use. But I didn't. Went fabric shopping yesterday, and this was in the discount section even. And no, the colors don't quite go with the brights, but it does tie in with the animals because it has giraffes on the outside. So this is what I'm going to use for my cover. For your cover fabric, you need 2 pieces of 18 by 12. Then you also need quilt batting. And because I just had to redo this, because I totally screwed up, hold on. I'm going with a fairly, lightweight, nothing fluffy batting. And you're going to need 3 pieces of 18 by 12. Okay, I think that covers everything you need to get and have ready in order to move forward with creating this baby book. Now that you have your fabric cut out for your inside pages, these are what you're going to embroider on. And each piece of fabric that is 18 by 12 is going to have 2 designs on it. Yep, one on the left and one on the right. So essentially you have a 9 by 12 piece of section that you're working with. This is why I opted, after playing with it and trying it on some other fabric, to go with a 4x4 applique with my fonts. Anything bigger, when I tried the 5x7, I thought it just kind of overwhelmed the page, the side of the page. So what you're going to need to do then is you need to find your center of both sides. You can use marking pen if you want. Just remember, you're going to want something that irons off. Otherwise, you're going to have to wash your baby book to get rid of your markings. If you use a marker, a fusion pen, you're going to want to find the middle, which is the center, which is 9 inches in. We're going to do really easy. We're going to fold it in half. Yep. Fold it in half. Use your finger pressing. And now we've got the center of the page. Now we need the center of each of these. So in that case, it is 4.5 inches in if you're doing measuring. Once again, we're going to just fold it in. I find it easiest to do this at the beginning for both sides instead of trying to do this after I've appliqued one side and it's, it's pulled and tugged. Okay. So you mark however you like to mark your fabric when you're doing machine embroidery to get the center. Then we still need the center here. This is 12 inches, so if you're marking with a pen, it will be at the 6-inch mark. We're going to just fold it in here and get our center. Doing it this way, you can press it all out. Okay, now we have the center of both sides of the fabric. As I mentioned, I'm using a 4x4, but then I put letters above. So L is for lion, and then I put lion underneath. I'm using a 3/4 inch font. As I played with things, I figured out what I liked best for the distance from the applique to the top of my text. And in this case, if you have software such as Design Gallery and Brilliance, and you can add your text into your image and have one embroidered file to work with, that works fantastic. If not, what you can do is embroider your applique and then get it out and come back out and mark where the line is for your text to go on. So in that case, I opted for about a 1/2 inch between my image and the words. Therefore, above my applique image, I would measure up about a 1/2 inch and draw a level line, and that's where the top of your letters, that's where the bottom of your letters will be lined up for your top. Down here, this would be about 1.5 inches below to get that. Play with it, see what works for you, and if you don't want to put letters on it, hey, don't. Just put a great design. And then, if you're not putting letters, a 5x7 design might work perfect for you. This is totally up to you. Now, if you decided to do what I did and put letters, excuse me, itchy nose, put letters on your applique images, I'm guessing in the book you might want them alphabetically, maybe. If you don't care, that's okay too. But you're going to want to lay out your book, probably, to get your images right. It is not intuitive. So I have my orange, green, yellow, and red fabric. I made a conscious decision what order I wanted them in, and what's going to happen is you're going to sew your two, when you sew them, it's going to be right sides together, but when you flip them inside out, it's going to be like this. So your books are, so I'm going to have an orange page, the next page is going to be green, the next page is going to be yellow, and the next page is going to be red. So I've laid them out right now just like they're going to be put together. And I layer them all on top of each other. So then when this is done, it's going to be like this. The first page is going to be red. You open it up and you're going to have a yellow and your green side. You're going to have orange and orange. Okay? Lay out your fabrics the way you want them to look in your book, if you're particular about what colors are next to what. Now, with that said, I'm putting letters on my book. So my baby book needs to be alphabetical. So I laid it out like this. The cover is going to go on top of this. So this is going to be the first page. I got my little cheat sheet here so I don't struggle with this. So we're going to have our first is going to be C is for cheetah. As you can see, I went and printed out my images ahead of time. Mine has it on there because my image is all one. If not, label yours with a big C. However, to make sure you know your alphabet. Believe me, I've done an alphabet book or an alphabet quilt and I had it all laid out on the floor. My husband came down and said, your letters are in the wrong order. Oops. C. So then I open it up. I go, okay, so next one is E. E is for elephant. As you can see here, I'm just pinning them on. M is, oh, I lost my G. Where's my giraffe? Oh, there's my giraffe. G is for giraffe. Make sure as you're opening it up, it's right side up. So my orange, G, F, G, H is for my Highland cow. L is for my lion. And LM is for my monkey. T is for tiger. And as you can tell, I obviously do not have all the letters. And my last one is Z is for zebra. All right, hopefully I did that all right. Otherwise I will be really embarrassed because I am not going to redo this video. There you go. So now when we flip it over, you should be able to go through it and go, okay, this is what your book is going to look like as your baby looks through it. As long as you're happy with it. I also have some designs where it's like, oh, I don't want them both looking into the middle. I want one looking that way and one looking that way. Totally up to you. Then you can then take them apart. And now you have everything laid out of how it needs to be stitched. There we go. This is how I will keep them until I'm ready to applique. And sometimes so we already got the middle of our orange piece of fabric. So what I'll probably do is I'll get a sticky note and just put over here a sticky note or something that says L, so that I can take my L off there, because I'm now going to work with this side of the fabric to embroider my Highland cow. Doesn't matter what order you embroider them in, as long as you know how you want your pages laid out. There we go. That is a critical piece of making sure you get your book laid out the way you want and don't have any, oh, my alphabet's wrong when you come to it, because that would not be very good. If you are new to machine embroidered applique, check out my video that I did a while ago on appliquing a water dog. That will be perfect instructions for what you need to do here. So I won't cover every step here. If you don't have an embroidery machine and you'd love to do this, fine, no big deal. Do a raw edge applique like you would do on other things. It'll still work out the same way, same concept. You just skip the machine embroidery and do raw edge applique, or however you want to do your applique. Or, hey, if you do handwork, embroider on it, and then use the same concept to stitch up your baby book. I'm going to go now and hoop this and get my first one done. I will probably take some pictures along the way and throw in here with some text, but in general, it's now up to you to use my other video, or you go and you get your pages all embroidered, ready to go, and then come back here and we'll get it put together. Now that you have all of your designs embroidered on your books, your pages of your book, we're ready to put it together. I did this over several weekends, and so I'm going to give you a few tips. As I showed you before, if you're doing an alphabet book, you want to make sure you lay it out and put your pages on, your images on the fabric pages in the order that they need to be, and confirm everything is good. I would highly suggest you actually pin them on all of the pages, make sure it's all good, and then take a photo of all of those pages, either a page at a time, or what I did was just, laid them out so I could at least see the color of the fabric page and the top of the image that was going to go on there. So when you need to move things around and things get unpinned, you can go, what order was this on? Was this on the left or the right side? I had to refer back to images that I took photos of a couple of times. The other thing is, go ahead and, before unpinning, so you have this page that you're going to embroider, what I did before I unpinned them from the fabric is I wrote in the corner, orange left, orange right. So when I unpinned them and set them somewhere, I knew and I didn't get confused. Yeah, I just did. That worked really well for me. Okay, now I have mine all done and I have laid them out before I'm doing anything else. I referred back to the photos I took and I laid them out to ensure that they were right, in the right alphabetical order. So I laid them out, so my red's on the bottom, right side down. The next page is right side up, right side down, right side up. And so I'm able to then flip through the book and confirm it is exactly the way I want. Now, we all know we're not perfect, and there's going to be some puckering with our embroidery, and it's going to tug a little bit on the fabric, which means your fabric is not perfectly, well, I was going to say square, but rectangular, and all perfectly lined up 12 by 18 like it was when you cut it. So stack them in the order and then get them aligned as best you can. Whether you align at the top, you need to kind of look at yours and see where the best place is to align, whether your top is the straightest, a side, the bottom, and then what you're going to do is you're going to, well, essentially square it up as you would a quilt. Doesn't need to be exact, but I'm actually going to grab my bigger ruler. Oh, yes, I have a, what is it? A 20 and a half by 20 and a half square ruler that comes in really handy when you're trying to do t-shirt quilts and squaring up things. So, but what I would do is I would get everything lined up as best you can and then get a ruler and trim off. Just square it up. My orange, for whatever reason, it's just, yeah, a little short. The size of this book is not that big a deal. Key thing is, once you trim this up, we're going to put it all together and you're going to stitch a 1/2 inch, not a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch from the edge. So be aware of that as you're trimming. So over here, my Highland cow is pretty long. So I don't want to be trimming that side too much or I'm going to run into my word, oops, when I trim it up. I am not going to do this on camera here, but I am going to trim mine up, get it nice and neat, and then, yeah, I'm going to trim it up, and then I'm going to show you now what we're going to do next. I'm going to trim it all up, and then set that aside and get your batting. This is my 12 by 18 inch batting. Then you're going to lay, and in this case, you're trimming up your fabric. So your fabric is now going to be a little smaller than your 18 by 12 inch batting. That's okay. You're going to put page 1 on top of your batting, right side down. Put page 2 right side down. Get your pins out. In this case, you're going to want to square it up because now you've trimmed it up so your fabric pieces should be fine. Put those in there, center that on top of the batting, and pin it all together. I would suggest you're going to want to leave a 10-inch space at the top where you're not going to sew. Pin all the way around, and then sew a 1/2 inch in from the fabric all the way around here. Leave an opening because we're going to need to flip this inside out when we're done. Okay? Let's do it. A few tricks for you. To sew a 1/2 inch in from the edge of the fabric when the batting is beyond the edge of your fabric, a little bit of a pain in the butt. So you can do one of two things. Either trim your batting so it is even with your fabric, so now you have an edge on your sewing machine that you can judge your 1/2 inch from, or get a Fusion marking pen or whatever you've got and mark the 1/2 inch seam all the way around and then just stitch on the seam. Whatever works for you, go with it. And then I put a sticky here because I have a tendency to just get on a roll and go all the way around and go, oh, I forgot to leave it open. So I put a sticky, leave open. Okay, on your sewing machine, most sewing machines are used to sewing clothes. So they have a 5/8 inch line setting for a 1/2 inch. As long as your needle's in the center, you're 1 mark to the left to get your 1/2 inch. But if you do a 5/8 inch, it's not that big a deal. Okay, now you've got these big corners here that we're gonna whack off. Oh, yeah. Also, when trimming all layers of your book and squaring it up with your batting, etc., I discovered switching to a rotary cutter, my 60 millimeter rotary cutter, which is much thicker, did a better job of cutting through all the layers for me. So if you've got one, you might find it beneficial. Now, these corners here, if you try and turn this inside out, it's gonna get ugly. So, cut off your corner at an angle, and what I've also done is I've angled it. So you kind of get a little arrow there in your corner. Be very careful though that you don't cut off your finger or the seam. Okay, we're gonna just get this done instead of doing another edit for my dear hubby. And then it's going to be the source of truth. I'll have to admit, I really hope I showed you right as far as laying out the book with your fabric, especially if you're doing it alphabetical, because as I laid these two pieces of fabric right sides together, right sides down on top of the batting, I'm like, oh my gosh, when I open this up, is it gonna be right? Is my alphabet's gonna be on the right side? So here we go, fingers crossed. Otherwise, I was gonna be very unhappy because I'm gonna have to go redo the entire video. Yeah, I will be very unhappy. Okay, so now that 10-inch opening, you are going to turn this inside out. Ah! And I was so worried about having the fabric right that I accidentally didn't put my fabric right side down. One of them I did, the other one I didn't. Well, okay, I am going to go and rip this out and redo it and have to be very careful because I already cut my corners, but I think I can recover this fine. And then I'll be back. Oh my gosh. It happens. It happens. Okay, I'll go recover. Maybe I need a glass of wine. Seriously, I wasn't drinking when I did this, but I might need a glass of wine now. Okay, we're gonna go do that. Well, as you saw in the edits earlier, you're supposed to put the batting at the bottom and then your first 2 pages next, right sides together. Then you won't end up with the problem that you just saw I had. Okay, so right sides together. This piece is where I've done it right sides together. The other one, we're gonna go take care of that later with a glass of wine. I've trimmed it up, so now I'm a little more comfortable now that my pages are going to be right. I should have known when I was questioning it how it was gonna work in the first place to know that I had those wrong. And you know what? We've all done it. When you're layering batting and 2 pieces of fabric and want to flip them inside out and have the batting in the middle and have it all be right. I know, I've done it before and had to second guess myself. So there we go. So now we've got our opening, we've got our corners trimmed, we are flipping it inside, right side out, not inside out. Inside out, right side out, whatever, right side out. The purple thing is perfect for this to get those corners. And I kind of do them as I'm flipping them. Should be able to get a pretty decent square corner if you angled your corners there. Get that out here. Though as long as you've got a good 10-inch opening, it should be pretty easy to get these corners. Okay, so by doing it this way, essentially, the pages are going to be the way you had laid them out before you sewed together, where you had a right side up and then your red was right side down. Hopefully I didn't confuse you and you weren't like working along with me. So you made the same boo-boo, though Kevin will edit it. So he would have already corrected it in the beginning. I saw that and realized after watching it that, you know what? This will be fine. I don't need to re-record 2 videos. You get to see my panicked, oh my gosh, what did I do? Okay, so now that you flipped it out, you used your purple thing or whatever tool you use to get your corners poked out, so to speak, without poking through it. You're going to work on getting your edges nice. You're going to take it to the ironing board and press it. Then, for each of your pairs of pages, you're going to press these under a 1/2 inch to match your seams. So we're going to take that. I'm going to just finger press it here. Finger press that down, and you're going to have to hand sew that and sew that down. There we go. Let's see. C, E, T, Z. Oh, my alphabet came out right. Oh my. Yeah, silly me. So I'm going to go fix my other one, and I'm going to press both of them then and get my seam sewed up, and then we'll be ready to put it together and include a cover. Yeah, I'm really pleased with it. I think I showed you at the beginning. This is what happens when I do a recording over multiple weekends. Hang on. I went with a fairly lightweight cotton batting. I didn't use anything fluffy, and I'm really tickled with how it feels. It's not too thick. I don't think you want it too fluffy, otherwise when you start putting multiple pages together, yeah. Oh, this is gonna be stinking adorable. This will make a great Christmas present. I'm gonna go fix my problems because it's getting late on a Sunday, and then, yeah, I'm gonna have to come back later and show you how to wrap this up. I love doing handwork, and I know it's not for everybody, but I took my little book out to the front porch, poured myself a glass of wine, and worked on the handwork of hand sewing up the opening while I enjoyed the fresh air and sunshine. So that is now done. I pressed my pages, and then I laid them together the order they're supposed to be and made sure C, E, L, uh-oh. Something's wrong. Anyway, I'm not gonna screw with it. I know we're good. We're good. There we go. I had me worried for a minute. Anyway, my alphabet is sound. I know that. And now we need to get our cover done. So you're gonna do the same thing you did before, the right way this time. You're gonna need 2 pieces, 12 by 18 of your cover fabric. Normally you'd have both pieces of fabric the same, but if you don't, that's okay. It's up to you. It's your baby book. If it is directional fabric, make sure that you have both pieces of fabric going the same direction. Mine is directional. I'm putting right sides together directional being towards the top for me. That's just the way I'm doing it. And then you put it on top of thread, on top of your batting. And yes, I know we trimmed down our pages because of some of the shrinking with the embroidery. I've decided I am not going to mess with trimming down my book cover to match. I only lost maybe 1/4 of an inch total. So this way the cover might be just slightly larger, which is just fine. So this way it'll be really easy. Match up your fabric to your batting. Once again, you are going to, I keep adjusting this, you're going to sew 1/2 inch all the way around, leaving an opening to flip. And yes, you're going to need to do handwork again to close that up, just like you did with the pages. Now, if you would like a tie to tie your book together, I've decided I don't. I figure it's just, I don't know, one more thing to tear for a kid. You would get your ribbon, or if you put a piece of fabric together and created a fabric strip, if you will, then you're going to put that inside between your 2 cover pages. So here it will get sewn, and then of course when you flip it out, it'll be on the outside. Make sure it's long enough so that there's plenty of room to tie it. I would go extra long if I were, and then you can always trim it up at the end. And just make sure you don't get it caught in another seam somewhere. That'd be bad. I am not going to do a ribbon. Okay, the other thing you can do is if you want to use your fusion marker and mark your 1/2 inch all the way around, that's what I'm going to do so I don't have to fine tune 1/2 inch on my machine. We're going to go do that, and then I'm not going to walk you through it, but you're going to trim your corners just like you did when you did the book pages. Flip it around and press and hand stitch your opening. Exact same things that you just did with your pages. All right, we got this. Right sides together. I got this. I'm gonna go get that done. I know I said I wasn't gonna show you how to do this, but in case somebody's watching it and doesn't want to jump back to the previous part, here's the deal. Finish sewing 1/2 inch around the edges, then trim your corners. I smacked them off on the edge, just like this. I'm using the 60mm rotary cutter as it does better with the multiple layers. I trim those off, and then we flip this inside out, just like this. And then as I flip it, I use my purple thing and get in here into the corners to get those poked out so they're nice and, so to speak, I don't know, square, kind of, sort of. We're going to do that. Get those poked out. I'm not going to do all of them. I'm going to just flip this inside out right away. And I made my opening a little bit smaller this time, so I didn't have as much to hand stitch. Look, this one turned out so much better than my first one. It really helps when you do it right. Okay, so you're going to get everything good in your corners. And then you're going to, I always like to fold under the part that doesn't have the batting first. I fold that down, and then I just fold the batting piece on top of it. And then I use these little wonderful tiny wonder clips here, and I'll I'll take it to the ironing board and press it some, and then I'll use these clips to clip it, and then it makes it really easy when I'm sitting and doing the handwork. And sadly, unlike yesterday when it was gorgeous and sunny outside, I could sit on the deck to do this, it is now shifted to cold, dreary, and rainy. So I guess we'll be doing it on the couch. Then we're ready to put everything together and see how it all looks at the end. Okay, I have finished the handwork on my cover. Now we're ready to put it all together. I'm going to, once again, I made sure my alphabet is right. Maybe you should start out one without an alphabet. Anyway, the inside page, so we've layered the 2 pages on top of each other. The inside page, I'm kind of particular. So instead of just eyeballing it, I am going to measure. So mine is 16.5 from one end to the other. That means 8.25 is my middle, and I'm going to mark it with a fusion pen, meaning it will iron off. And then I am going to actually draw my stitch line. This is the center of our book. Okay, and this pen, it will iron off, making sure I have my pages nice and even, and get everything situated. Now, actually, I bet I want my bigger ones. We'll see if these work. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clip my pages together here. Oh yeah, that'd be good enough. You can pin them if you don't have these, but I wanna make sure I'm keeping, okay, I might need to get my other ones. I wanna keep my pages together and secured as I'm running them through the sewing machine. So there we go. So I've got them secured so they don't shift. And then all you need to do is go to the sewing machine and sew on the line all the way through all the layers. Now, those are pretty serious layers there. I think I am going to shift to my walking foot, though I think my regular machine foot will, I don't know. Not sure if it'll do it or not, but I'm gonna shift to my walking foot, I think. We'll see, and stitch it. So do what works for you, knowing you're going through a lot of layers. Let's get it done. And voila, it's done. I have to admit, can't say I'm a complete fan of my color choice for the cover, but it's fine. I'm gonna give you a tip here. So, one, I would really not suggest you try and do a baby book with more than 2 pages and a cover. Otherwise, it will get incredibly thick for you to stitch on. Note, I indicated using your regular foot or your walking foot. I have an electronic walking foot. Well, all of this layer was not gonna fit underneath my walking foot once I got it through. So I stuck with my regular foot. It did fine. My needle, on the other hand, did not. I'd been doing embroidery work for days and hadn't remembered to switch out my embroidery needle for a regular needle. And then as soon as my needle broke, I thought, silly you, why did you not put in a Microtech needle? Yes, so I would suggest a Microtech needle when you do the middle stitching. And what I did was I took a piece of fabric here at the beginning and got my needle started, and then got this under the foot to get going. Once I got here, I backspaced it because you're going to want to make sure that is locked in there. And then I got to the end, and well, that's where it broke the first time. It's when I tried to backstitch and lock it in. So switched out to a Microtech needle, and then I actually just flipped it around So this time I started at this end and I actually did a double stitch. So I started at this end, locked my stitch in and stitched over it again. So now it's really good and secure because I've actually stitched over it twice. There we go. Now we're set. The other thing you can do is embroider the child's name on the front, embroider the name of the book, if you will, on the front. So many things you can do. And then put a label on the back indicating that you made it for somebody special, and when you did, that will be really appreciated. And as I've gotten it done, this is what happens again when I do things for the first time. I think next time I would make the cover maybe just a tad larger. Once you kind of get it all in there, you know, the cover is wrapping around two other layers, and so it's not fully out there. And I chose not to put a tie on it. It ties it all together. So some of the things to keep in mind, but then again, you're giving it to a baby, a toddler. I don't think they really care that much. Totally up to you. Just throwing those out. Fun! There you go. Happy stitching!